Hey there everybody, Tendertoe here. I wanted to go over a mod for a double pole mod for a Superfly tarp. And basically what this is going to do is you're going to have two poles at the hex tie-outs of the Superfly. So the items you're going to need are, you're going to need 4 number 1 grommets. These are called size number 1. They are also 5/16 is the inside diameter. So this is the kit. If you pick this up from your hardware store, it comes with, I don't know, about 20 or so, 24 I believe, grommets. It comes with a hole punch that actually punches a hole through the material. It comes with a little wood block to do your bashing on, and then it comes with the actual setting tool. So you're going to need a kit unless you already have these tools to actually set the grommet. This was, I think, about 12 bucks. I did have to call around to a couple different hardware stores, though, so be wary of that. Evidently, 5/16 is not a run-of-the-mill measurement or product size for these, so just be wary of that. So you're going to need 4 of those. You are going to need about a foot of webbing. I just happen to have 1-inch webbing here. This doesn't need to be load bearing or anything like that. I just happen to have some laying around. You're going to need about 12 inches. And you are going to need some cordage here. This is just mason's line. And this is actually going to tie the pull-out portions to the tarp that the poles are actually going to go into. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up with your 12 inches of webbing here. You're going to end up with 4 of these. Now what this is basically is it's a small little piece with a sewn eye in it here, and the grommet there. So you can see it's just a pretty small, I'd say that's maybe an inch, inch and a half total. Part of it's folded over to make a small loop here. And then your grommet is placed into that. So we have 4 of these all together, and these are going to go on each of the corner ties. So that is what we need for the the webbing, the sort of hardware piece. Let's take a look at what we need for the poles. So this is the actual pole portion of what you are going to need for the double pole mod for your tarp. I ordered all of these pole equipment pieces from tentpoletechnologies.com. They were really great to deal with. And these are all .340 Easton aluminum poles. And these are in black. They also sell them in gold. They also sell fiberglass. You can use carbon fiber, what have you. But at any rate, this is what I'm using here. The end result, we're going to have 2 poles that are 10 feet per piece that are going to be for the head and the foot end of the tarp. So what you're going to need are 10. These are 18-inch with insert poles. So you're going to need 10 of those, 18-inch with insert. You can see the little silver insert portion here. So 10 18-inch with insert. You are going to need 2 18-inch without insert. You are going to need 2 13-inch with insert. And once again, this is going to give you ultimately 2 poles that are 10 feet in length. So if we take a look then, the other 2 items you are going to need are roughly 20 feet of shock cord, 10 feet per pole, and then you are going to need 4, these are called locking tips, and these are going to be your they're going to go on the ends, so you're going to have 2 per pole. So those are actually the items you'll need for the actual poles. Let's take a look at how this all actually ends up getting put together. So this is what a single pole looks like when it's all assembled with the shock cord. Basically, we have a locking tip on one end and another locking tip on the other end, and shock cord is run through all of the poles and tied to the locking tip. So you've got a locking tip, shock cord is tied to it, shock cord is run through each of the poles and tied to the other locking tip. So in order, you need to actually get this in the correct order in order for it to all fit together correctly. Basically what we have is the center pole is the 13-inch with insert, and then we have 3 18-inchers on one side and 3 18-inchers on the other side. The only sort of exception to this is that our final 18-inch pole does not have an insert, because it needs to accept an insert on one end and it needs to accept the locking tip at the other end. So let's walk this through from one side to the other. We have locking tip, we have 18-inch without insert, we have 2 18-inchers with insert, we have a 13-inch with insert, and then we have 3 18ers with insert. So that's how that looks. We have 3 18ers with insert, a 13-inch with insert, 2 18-inchers with inserts, and an 18-inch without an insert. So that's what it looks like sort of constructed. Let's take a look at what these actually look like when they're put on the tarp. So here's what it looks like all set up. It's got the 2 poles right above the hex ties, so the poles attach here at the hex ties, go up and over and around to the other hex tie. You can see, just compared to the normal pull out, it's a good ½ foot to a foot maybe, you know, further pulled out, because that's where your normal pull out's going to be on your Superfly. So once again, it comes straight up from the hex, up and over to the other hex. So there's 2 on both, rather 1 on both sides. So let's actually take a look through so we can see the clearance in here. So if we see, we've got quite a bit of headroom in here. Let's head over to the other side so we can get a nice good look at the clearance for the spreader bars. So you can see the difference here is, normally your spreader bars are going to be you know, further away from where your pullouts are, so your pullouts aren't going to do an efficient enough job to pull that tarp out. However, you can set this up where the pole is spreading out right where the spreader actually is on both sides. Now I've got this pitched in what I would call storm mode, so it's really right next to the tarp here, but you can see, looking down through it, really opens things up in there. Once again, this is storm, you know, sort of batten down the hatches. This is going to be as, you know, sort of as low as I would get it, but it really just shows you how much things spread out for the spreader bars there. So let's take a look at actually how this is attached to the tarp. What we have is, at each of the hex ties, there is a piece of grosgrain holding the triangle buckle here, and that's normally where you tie off your stake. All I've done is I've tied a piece of cordage through that, and then through the loop in my piece of webbing, and then there's the grommet. So that's how this is all attached through there. So it, once again, it just you know, uses the items that are already built in there to attach it there. So there's absolutely no, you know, alterations done to the tarp. If you decide you don't like this, you can snip the piece of cordage there, and there's no you know, no harm done there. The one thing that you will need to do is, and I happen to have a continuous ridge line, you will need to have some type of way to attach this pole, or hold the pole, to the ridge line of the tarp. I just have a small piece of cordage press-icked onto the ridge line, and then the pole is run through that. If you did not use a continuous ridge line, you could just as easily run you know, a small piece of line from this pull out here to the other ridge line pull out, just that length, and then attach your prussics and cordage to that. You could, of course, always, if you want to, you could sew, you know, some ribbon on the interior to hold the pole there. You could also use a grip clip on the inside and use that to hold it in. So those are all methods to accomplish the same thing. But once again, if you were to take a look here, you just need to make sure that that pole is held firmly against the ridge line of the tarp. So let's once again take a final look at it from the outside here. And there you go. I might end up altering the length of the poles. This one over here on the left, on the head end, seems to be a bit taut, kind of, you know, a little bit rigid against the tarp here. So I may end up, the way to alleviate that would be to, you know, to shorten the length of the pole, because what the pole is actually trying to push itself out of the tarp there. So there you go. Double pole mod for the Superfly tarp. to accommodate a spreader bar hammock. Now, once again, sort of what led me to this was the idea that the dimensions for the cloudburst pullouts were very similar to where the hex ties are on the actual Superfly. So I figured if we can extend the pullouts to be further up, rather further out towards the ends, we can, help accommodate those spreader bars. Let's take one last look in the foot end here. And once again, the foot end, you can see a substantial difference in clearance because obviously in the head end I have the additional piece in the spreader bar. But on the foot end, you can see there is a substantial amount of room, even pitched in storm mode like this. I've got a good, probably almost 12 inches on that side, and probably an equal amount, if not even a little bit more on that side. So there you go, double pole mod for the Superfly hammock. No, well, shouldn't say no sewing. You do need to sew the webbing, but no real alterations to the tarp, that is. If you do want to see a no-sew mod, you can check out my other video for a no-sew pole mod, and it'll be a very similar idea, except just using grip clips on the corners here. So there you go. Thanks for watching. So this would be a way so that you would not have to actually sew anything. And I made this a little bit longer. This was one of my trial runs. But if you did not want to actually, you would need to double the amount of webbing that you would need, but you can just actually use the grommet to form your eye, because once again you need an eye there in the webbing. So that's another way to do this. This is just a doubled over piece of webbing, so you wouldn't actually need to fold it over and sew an eye in there. You could just actually use the webbing itself to do that. So no real need for any additional extra pieces. So that's one additional way to do this for a pole mod. The additional way, if you do not want to have your tie-outs located at the hex tie-outs of the actual tarp, you can use a grip clip and just run that through the eye of this, and then attach the grip clip onto your tarp wherever you'd like it, and have that be the point where it's fixed to the tarp. So it's just another way to do this that you wouldn't actually need to use the any type of sewing to do that, and another way that you can use just a grip clip to attach it to anywhere on the tarp there. So there you go.